What's up guys, it's your favorite QB coach and give me 6 months of your time. I'll give you the best golf swing of your life. So welcome back to the channel. In this particular video, we will be reacting to another YouTube golf instructor. This is going to be Porzak Golf. I actually originally found him on Instagram back when I was in San Diego. He had a lot of great juniors, a lot of great college athletes, as well as some pros. And his teaching method when it came to mechanics is very similar to mine, and he's very much about this arm in front of the body approach, and really he doesn't teach a whole lot of hip rotation as well, right? So it's very similar to what I teach, and this is why I wanted to bring up this particular video. So if you're interested in learning from another golf instructor that has a similar kind of method or approach to mine, this is the perfect video for you, and let's go ahead and jump in. But before we get into the video, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, and that is Kiwi Golf Japan. If you did not know, YouTube definitely does not pay the bills. So if you want to help support this YouTube channel, after the video is over, there will be a link down below that's going to lead you to our Kiwi Platinum membership site. If you guys sign up, not only are you guys going to help out this YouTube channel, you're also going to get access to 330 videos that are currently on the site as well. We post right around 20 videos every single month. So if you want to get access to that site, help out this YouTube channel, get access to all those videos, sign up for the link down below after the video, and let's go ahead and hop in. Okay, so just like all these reaction videos, let me give you a little bit of context about what has happened maybe before this. And I'm just guessing at this point, but I'm pretty sure that this is the case. And then for there, once you guys get the context, when they start the video, everything else should make a whole lot more sense. So this is either a junior golfer, college golfer, or pro golfer. It's really hard to kind of tell her age, but for the most part, she's a competitive golfer, which means she's playing a lot of tournaments. She's probably playing high-level competitive golf at, whatever level she's at. And it seems like for the most part, the biggest issue right now is she's struggling a little bit too much with an overdraw at the moment. Not that she wants to eliminate the draw, it's just she wants to kind of reduce the amount of draw for her bad swings. I'm sure her good swings are still quite good, but when she hits it bad, maybe it's drawn like 15, 20 yards with a 7-iron when she only wants it to draw at the most, maybe 10 yards. So that's kind of the main thing I think that they're trying to work on. So when it comes to kind of the main ideas of what is causing her to do that, for Adam's, the golf instructor's kind of opinion, it's going to be that the elbow is getting a little bit stuck behind the body. So if you imagine your shirt right now and there's a seam line on that shirt, the elbow kind of in transition is going behind that seam line. That was one of the bigger issues there. And then also as she started to approach the golf ball, she was adding on a little bit too much toe closure. So she was getting what we would call gamma rotation, or a little bit too much supination in the wrist or forearm rotation. She's getting a little bit too much of that. The toe is closing down too much. And these are going to be the two main points they're trying to work on. So now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and start the video, and then I think everything should make sense.
Good swing there. Let's take a look at these. But what's great is, and part of the anti-left is going to be that elbow being more in front of your body. And, and that's where you're...
Okay, let's stop it right around here. Okay, so I want to give you guys some checkpoints in terms of trail elbow and where it should be positioned relative to the body, so you guys can kind of visually see what is behind the body and what is not behind the body. So what we use is kind of this, at least me personally, I use the point on the trail elbow right here, and I kind of refer it relative to the seam line of the shirt. So her seam line, it's a little bit difficult to tell in this video, but would be somewhere right around here. So she's going to be a good inch or maybe an inch and a half ahead of the seam line. Now, I still think she could get this point of the elbow even further ahead to be a little bit more ahead of the trail hip right here. And I think she could do that by minimizing kind of the pelvis rotation and ribcage rotation that she's currently got. I'd be working a little bit on early rotation, but I don't know if Adam was already working on that, because actually he does kind of teach similar to me, where he doesn't really like early rotation. But for the most part, compared to where I see most lady golfers, she's actually got that elbow in a quite good spot compared to them. They typically are going to be much more almost over here, like an inch behind the seam line, which is just heavily behind. So that's kind of the first point when it comes to the trail elbow. Let's play it forward, because they're about to talk about the face angle as well.
Work that right elbow more in front of your right pocket through impact. But you see how you have to close it down a little bit more than even you need to right here? Yeah. So there's that.
All right, let's stop it here. So they're talking about closing it down more than you need to. They're talking about kind of the top part of this iron right here, so this little part of the club. So if you take a look at this box right here, I'm assuming that this is going to reference where the top part of the club should be kind of angled off towards. This would be more so a neutral face angle, I guess you could say, at this point in the golf swing. Hers is maybe 10 to 15, 20 degrees more rotated than this box right here. So that's kind of churning it over a little bit more than they would want to at this particular point in the golf swing. Let's go to the other checkpoint place, which is going to be kind of P9, because there's another little checkpoint they talk about as well.
Face being a little bit lost through there through impact. And
Okay, and this is kind of that P9 position right here. So we're seeing kind of this time let's use the leading edge as the reference point. Leading edge right here relative to perpendicular is maybe like 35 degrees off of that. So maybe at this point you want to be a little bit closer to perpendicular at this point. Definitely not like 35 degrees turned down. That's a good telltale sign that you had quite a bit of toe closure through impact. Now, what I want to get to before they start to get into kind of his points, I want to talk about lady golfers in general, and then I want to kind of talk about some of the reasons why we tend to see kind of this massive toe closure move. And I think it stems a lot from kind of what they're doing in transition. So let me kind of break this down for you guys. So whenever we teach lady golfers, typically what we tend to see is in transition, the rib cage and the pelvis tend to rotate quite early. And then from there, what would happen is if the arms don't kind of go behind the body and get stuck, the arms would actually move way out ahead of the golf ball, and then they kind of swipe across the ball. So what you see with the better lady golfers is you don't see them shift those hands way out. What you see them do is they still spin the upper body and lower body, but the elbow starts to split and move towards internal rotation. The hands start to kind of drop vertically down, or if anything, kind of loop behind. And then that gets the elbow kind of stuck at that point right around position 5. Then from there, what we end up seeing is with the wrist, in transition, they typically don't add on radial deviation, or they don't kind of recock the wrist in transition. They actually move the opposite way and actually uncock in that point. And that typically gets a lot of lady golfers around P6 underneath the plane. And then also they've added on quite a bit of ulnar deviation. So really the face angle is wide open at that particular point in the golf swing. So then what happens from there is they tend to add on a lot of gamba rotation, right? Or that supination in the lead wrist, or kind of that counterclockwise rotation in the forearm. And that gets the toe to turn down heavily or turn closed heavily, which it should, right? Because their face is so open at P6. And it's really the only way they can square the face. Now the issue is, you're closing the face almost more than 90 degrees from P6 into impact, and that's going to be really inconsistent when it comes to face angle at impact, right? Because you're going to have different face angles, maybe by like a 4 degree, sometimes even 5 degree variance, and that's going to be massive when it comes to curvature and starting line. And that's why in tournament golf, when your timing's off, you're getting a little quick, it's easy for these players to hit big, massive, way offline shots that they don't hit when they're not nervous, right? So then from there, maybe they start, oh, I'm just a mental issue, it's my problem. And, sometimes maybe it's a little mental, but for the most part, it could have been fixed mechanically. So personally, in my opinion, what I would have been fixing first is I probably would have fixed the body first. So I would have worked on the early rotation of the rib cage and the pelvis. Try to also, just like Adam was talking about, get that elbow in front of the body a little bit more while we're having good sequence of rotation. And then from there, also work a little bit more on a recocking move with that radial deviation in transition, because that's going to allow them to get the torque at a little bit bigger magnitude. And it's going to help her, I think, with the release, and then also controlling that gamma rotation or that kind of supination or counterclockwise rotation of the forearm. And then from there, I feel like we would have gotten the same results they got. Now, he took a lot different approach, and I think his approach worked quite well. And I think particularly for the client, probably was a better approach for this client because, she's playing in a lot of competitive tournaments. Maybe she's in between tournaments. Maybe she has a tournament tomorrow. And you don't want to maybe go through all of that stuff in a lesson when it's not the right time to do it, right? When she's not on off season or something like that. So I'm assuming this is kind of the reason why he took this particular approach, because I've watched a lot of his coaching and he definitely has a very similar method to me. So I think this is why he took this particular approach. But now that we got that out of the way, let's hear Adam's approach on how we want to fix this, because I also think this is quite useful as well.
That beautiful swing of ears gets a little bit just, and that right there, to me, all it is just an awareness that, okay, my hands are the club face, right? So what I mean by that for my viewer, if I open my right, that is the club face. If I open my left, the back of...
Okay, so let's stop here. So as you guys can see, he's taking the approach of facial awareness. So he's really kind of talking about what are the hands doing, specifically kind of what torques or what rotations you're applying to the grip to be able to hit certain types of curvatures, right? So again, I think this is a great approach when you got a player who's playing a lot of competitive golf and they don't have a lot of time off in between tournaments currently. This is probably by far the better approach because it takes a whole lot less effort mentally for them to kind of put into their golf swing. So let's continue with this.
My left is the club face. So, if I have connection and a good rhythm, now I have club face awareness and I know exactly where that club face is through impact. Now, for somebody who's overturning the golf ball, well, I've always felt it's kind of common sense. Don't you lead with the heel a little longer?
So what he's talking about there is, don't you kind of minimize that supination in the lead wrist? Don't you kind of minimize that counterclockwise rotation of the forearm, right? As you're approaching the golf ball, don't you feel like you have maybe even slightly the opposite if I'm hooking the golf ball too much? this is kind of what he's talking about in terms of like manipulating the face angle with the hands.
Somebody who needs, who's overcutting it. Well, hey, listen, besides working on getting into the right swing plane like Ashley has, well, here we go. Just, sometimes just hitting a couple of these. You see how I just released it a little bit more? And it just turns a little bit more the other direction. Educate your hands on what needs to happen. Yeah, connection matters. And when you have a beautifully connected swing, less activity happens here. But it's still what's holding the golf club. The hands are.
Yeah, I heavily agree with that. And if you talk to a lot of great players, they all talk about this, right? When they're shaping the golf ball, or even when they're just trying to hit the ball a little bit better than what they're currently hitting it, because maybe they're struggling with a certain ball flight, they're heavily using the hands to manipulate the face angle. And a lot of these guys, even if they don't know TrackMan, are doing this, right? So I think this is great advice, especially for the better player out there. Obviously, the amateur golfer, you're in such crazy positions that it's very difficult to control the face angle with just the hands. So you guys need to get into better positions and then try to work on something like this. But for the player he's teaching, this is great advice.
So there needs to be an education and awareness of what these are doing at impact, and the best golfers will all tell you. For example, I used Cameron Sisk as an example of the U.S. Amateur 1 year at Pebble. He just could not hit the draw with his longer irons. Well, I said, hey, buddy, imagine there's a ball behind the ball and square it up at that ball as opposed to the ball itself. Just whenever he needed a little extra draw, he would just imagine squaring it up that much sooner. That was just something that he was able to do here, and it was able to connect and become part of his game.
All right, that's it for you guys on YouTube. But before you guys click off, let me give you some quick wrap-up points. So I think the main point of this video is this particular golfer was struggling with the overdraw. So a lot of the concepts that you heard in this video, we're going to be helping the overdraw. And specifically, kind of the checkpoint part of the video for you guys on the YouTube is the best part in my personal opinion, because you can actually have real visible checkpoints, which this is, again, why I think Adam teaches very similar to me, because he uses those real checkpoints. He talks a lot about feel versus real. He also kind of teaches very similar with kind of the arms in front approach and not a lot of pelvis rotation. I think we teach very identical types of golf swings. So when it comes to the fixing the hook, I think the easiest and simplest approach for a lot of you guys out there on the course is trying to manipulate it through the hands, through the release, because you're really focused around impact, which is where I feel like predominantly you should be focused when you're out there playing on the course. And then from there, there's some really easy ideas and motions that you can use to be able to kind of limit that toe closure. So if you guys want to watch this whole video, because there's a lot more that you guys didn't get to watch on YouTube, definitely make sure to sign up for the membership site. You can get access to this video as well as 330 other videos. And then remember as well, guys, we post 20 new videos on that membership site every single month. So sign up for the link. It's going to support this YouTube channel. You get access to a bunch of great videos. Hope to see you on the membership site. Like, comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next video.